Hello and welcome back everyone. Today I look back in time, quite literally, all the way back to the Stone Age, as that is the setting for this not so cutesy run and gun platformer, Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja. The game stars the green-haired Joe and the blue-haired Mac. These are cavemen who battle through numerous prehistoric levels using weapons such as boomerangs, bones, fire, flints, electricity, stone wheels and clubs. The objective of the game is to rescue a group of women who were kidnapped by a rival tribe of cavemen. This kind of game was not really my bag back in the day. I preferred the more serious platformers like Prince of Persia, but as is the way when in the arcades, and your mate sees a game he likes the look of but you don't, you kind of have to humour him, and that's what I did when I played this in the arcades. I will admit now I found the game quite enjoyable, but I wasn't bowled over with it or anything. The action was a little too slow paced for my liking, but it was pretty challenging, and I did play it on a few occasions with a mate. But it was definitely one of those love it or leave it kind of games. When looking at the visuals, one simply has to concede that this was one of the prettiest looking games around in 1991. It had this modern 80s cartoon look to them, very bright and very colourful sprites, fairly well detailed backgrounds, and some of the dinosaurs looked really epic, especially these ones on the water level. The enemy cavemen all walk around like they have already consigned themselves to a life of servitude or something, and they may have been influenced by Captain Caveman, as the look is quite comical, but in a good way. The game is packed with funny touches throughout, like spitting fire when collecting the hot sauce, and the eyes popping out when confronted with large end-of-level enemies. I can see that Data East were trying to maybe appeal to a younger audience, and this game was certainly a departure away from some of their previous games like Midnight Resistance and Crude Busters. The sound is really good too in this game. The music has a lot of these sort of ethnic nature tunes that you would hear in a Richard Attenborough documentary on the wildlife of the savannah or something. But the in-game sound effects are a little feeble sounding, and don't get me wrong, they are not bad, but they do seem a little 8-bit micro sounding in places. In terms of gameplay, it's not a hideous gaming experience, and it can be quite entertaining, as it is pretty challenging, but the difficulty curve is nicely rounded out, and so progress to the later levels is possible, but by no means a walkover. As usual, the game is better enjoyed in 2-player. There is no difference other than a palette change between the two cavemen, so no fighting over who gets to pick the stronger character here. As I said, this kind of game was right up my mate's street, and after dragging him into 2-player games he wasn't a massive fan of, I felt it was required to return the favour. And when we discovered this machine in the Lagoon Leisure Centre, we spent a few quid on it. None of us managed to beat the game, and I don't ever remember thinking I had to come back soon and play it. But I also do not recall ever refusing to go back and play it either. It was just a game. One of many that I played at that time, and it was an okay gaming experience. But the issue with this game was when my mate found out it was available on the Super Famicom. I mean, as expensive as Super Famicom games were, I wasn't going to spend 50 quid of my money on it. So what could I do? As a young person, owning an imported Super Famicom was not the great experience many would have thought it would be. I got a Super Famicom on Japanese import along with a mate of mine, and I thought that the games would largely be in line with the Japanese Mega Drive prices. But boy, was I wrong. Many Jap import games were £50 plus. Not only that, they always seemed to be available in small numbers. And my mate and I made this pact when we both got Super Famicoms for Christmas 1991, that we would not buy a game if another of us had it. Apart from Street Fighter 2, of course. Anyway, this pact did not last long, as I managed to get a hold of Final Fight, and then my mate did likewise. And he also had rich parents, and he seemed to get a hold of any new game pretty much straight away. I had to figure out a way to get new games on the Super Famicom pretty regular, and that's where I thought this advert would be the answer to my prayers. The Solid Gold Exchange Club was an idea set up by someone based not too far away from where I lived. You would join the club and then send in a game as collateral. You would then give a list of games you would like to borrow for a month. Sounds good, right? Well, as I discovered after the fact, the problem with this was you would end up borrowing games other people had sent in. I thought I would be borrowing new games, and so as each gamer had to leave a game as collateral, most people left rubbish games, and so all you had to choose from was rubbish games. But the first game I got through this scheme was in fact Caveman Ninja, and knowing how much my mate loved the game, I decided to borrow it. And it actually turned out to be a real surprise. Most 2-player arcade games like this on the Super NES ended up being reduced to single player, but this kept the 2-player mode. Of course, the other surprise was that it was not exactly an arcade port, and some changes were made to the gameplay, such as this map screen more akin to Mario. But more than enough from the arcade was present to make it an enjoyable gaming experience. Visually, it's excellent. Very close to the arcade, I reckon. Very bright, very colourful sprites, with the enemy cavemen and the dinosaurs all looking very close to the arcade indeed. The music and sound effects are also pretty much spot on to the arcade, with a faithful reproduction of Dickie Attenborough's background music, and some sound effects are even better on the Super NES in my opinion. The gameplay is pretty much the same, and on the SNES there is very little slowdown to be seen. And this was considered a massive plus, as there was nothing more annoying than slowdown on the Super NES. The difficulty is not quite the same though, but I guess it was aimed at a younger audience. It certainly was in the West. Here is the intro for the Japanese version, and the version found in the West. And as you can see, the Western audience gets this story, while the Japanese audience gets a taste of what Reform UK want life to be like for young men going forward. My opinions on this game haven't really changed much over the years. It wasn't a slog playing it through for this video. In fact, I actually enjoyed it very much. And it isn't any better or worse than I remembered. It's just a game that was quite fun to play for a short while. Not exactly a ringing endorsement, I know, but there are worse games to play, I'm sure. And that was my look back at Caveman Ninja. Give it a go on the arcade or SNES or Mega Drive, as it appears on that console too, although I never played that version, ever. And before you go and play it, don't forget to swing past the thumbs up icon and give it a caveman style smash, and again, do the same on the subscribe button, as it really does mean a lot. And how can I forget everyone who has subscribed and commented already? Your feedback and support really does help the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of you, so thank you from me. And that's all from me folks, thanks for watching.